have Ashley Williams from Rizzarr. Have the great pleasure to invite her to the next generation marketing platforms involving millennials. She's generating tons of traffic for brands using the millennial platform. Ashley, give us a little 30-second, 2-minute spiel on Rizzarr.
Yeah, sure. Just like you said, we're helping brands to gain and to attract the next generation. We've also started working on getting Gen Z content creators now as well, because of how our generation is not only matriculating over into more, adulthood things, but also just to get to really be the platform for the next generation of content creators. And it's definitely been an interesting experience being an entrepreneur. It's full of it's like almost like a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you're like, woo, and other times you're like, oh.
So true. Sometimes it's nice, easy, smooth sailing, and then it's the roller coaster of being an entrepreneur. Oh gosh. And I know for myself, the first 2 months during COVID was a roller coaster of I lost 50% revenues, trying to figure things out. And finally, things are starting to pick up. What have you been seeing from March to now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I have to say, I was trying to just take everything in, with what was happening in the news and seeing just what was happening in the world. And I feel like personally, it was a lot of, wait, is this actually happening? Is this, what's the seriousness of this virus? And then it's like, oh my gosh, then getting fear, it was spreading, and then realizing that I could either, and I feel like as entrepreneurs, we're always having to adapt and change. And I could either live into fear mentality, or I could live into this opportunity mentality. And it wasn't really fear around the sense of the company, because I realized that we have always been really focused on providing content to brands for people to reach the online audience. So I knew it was an opportunity, but I think just that things were changing so quickly, and just personally having to take in what was going on. So initially it was those stages, and then it was opportunity stage, how can we make the most of this time of reflection, of seeing how we can help brands, especially now since so many of them had to who were maybe focused on in-person more so, now having to shift to do online. So for us, it's really been an opportunity. We've been able to gain more opportunities as a result of this, which is such an unfortunate event. But at the same time, I'm thankful that we can also be, because of the development of the company, be of service and to be helpful to different companies that need our services or content. So it's just been a really interesting time,
No, that's really interesting. You said, I want to touch upon something you were talking about, how, because your company pretty much runs remotely, no one's in the office, everybody's wherever they are. However, there was a component, while it was a completely remote, huge, very disruption of how branding should be done. You still said people were doing things in person. When they were, maybe there was an interview or whatever it was,
right.
How do you see things changing from the model of where, and I don't exactly, maybe you can touch upon how they were doing things in person to how they're doing now, and where you think the next steps will be 6 months to 2 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I think essentially, so one of our hypotheses is really that every brand now has essentially become a media company. That was the premise before this even started happening, that was what was shifting over in the world today, because everyone is using social media, everybody needs content assets to be able to, or social media assets in order to reach their audiences. And then now with everything going on, and then this fast forward, I really think it's going to be even more, it's going to just be a huge surge of all these companies now shifting over to how can we do what we do online in the same way? How can we reach our audiences online in a very creative, tactful, but also informative and empowering way? And I think the other thing is not only that, so there's so many businesses that were in person and now having to do things digitally, or they're having experiences that now need to do online experiences or events. You see so many companies or conference type of companies sort of conferences or events, shifting and doing more things online, and pulling their audiences from, hey, I know we can't see you in person, but we're going to do it online. Even TED Talks, which is like really interesting. So I think that this is, I mean, I hate to say like the term, I keep hearing the term new normal. I don't want to say like it's new normal, but I just think that everything that was kind of going as it was is just having to go more at that a more rapid pace now, where everything is online. I think as they find the vaccine and as things get better, people will still matriculate back to doing those in-person experiences. But I think if it is an in-person experience, it's now going to be also in-person and online. So if you can't be there in person, which is great too for companies, because then they're able to reach more people, they're probably able to generate more revenue. And I think that it's just causing people to be more forward thinking about their approach. The other thing I see is like there's like this huge shift in the brand positioning, right? I mean, it used to be where brands weren't as conscientious about what it is that their values, I mean, not necessarily all brands, but many of them were not having this emphasis on their values or their purpose or their mission. But in order to garner more people and more audiences, brands are realizing we really need to tap into being more empathetic. We need to be more just in concern about what's going on in the world and really having more conversations around that. And that was also our hypothesis, because our generation is really big on impact, being more conscious, being more aware, driving more value into the world, and really thinking about what we're doing. So now brands are like, oh shoot, we really gotta like emphasize this more if we're really gonna reach these audiences, and doing so in a very empathetic but also very positive way, and not like, what's the word, inauthentic. It has to be very
Yeah, and I think it's when you said you hate the term the new normal, this is definitely not our new normal. This is how we are for a short period of time. We're not going to be like this for 10 years from now.
Yeah.
This is how we're just dealing with it for a short period of time. In 6 months to 2 years, I think, like as you said, we're going to have some middle ground of where before we were everything was in person. To be honest, our conversation would have been because you would have been inundated with in-person meetings nonstop, and that's just how life was.
Right.
I hardly ever took video calls or even calls to meet somebody.
Right.
Now that's all I do.
Yeah.
And I don't think I want 100% do that, but I think there will be some middle ground of, hey, I'm going to open up my imaginary borders of communication, and I'll put myself out there more often now. And I think because I've become more used to at least having meetings this way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was going to say, and reaching your audiences that way.
Yeah. I mean, like at Hire Llama, we often will work with our own employees and the companies and the contractors very remotely, and that we're 100% remote talking to each other. And that was very normal. But even getting the clients beforehand was all about, hey, let me sit down with a coffee for you. And that was so hard to do because everybody has things to do.
Yeah.
But now that video chats are so normal, I think that will be some form of video chat and in person is going to be how people get used to things in the future. And something else intrigued me with what you said, how reaching cross cultures. I know we've always had like huge events worldwide where we meet up, or we would try to have these events where brands would try to connect people worldwide and people would fly in or everything. I just attended an event that was international. And how do you perceive, but there's like no advertising. So how is, and because you're in this kind of branding world, how is that going to happen? Because when I go to this event, I'm not seeing any vendors. No one's like, oh, hey, try my bag of chips, or try this out. and no one's like sending me stuff either. I don't know, what is this? How are people going to start advertising when events are going to be less in person?
Yeah, I think that's funny that you, well, first off, I think because everything happened so quickly, and I think that the idea of how do we advertise, how do we like showcase our brand was just for the events that were happening or just about to happen, it was just so much to take in. But I do see though that, for example, I attended a symposium just last week, right, online, and there was like a part where you do like this kind of networking session where you go from one person, like almost like online dating, but it wasn't dating, it was just like meeting different people from the company.
Speed networking.
Yeah, you're right. There you go. And like there was an actual tool that I never even knew about. It's like a Meetaway or something, but you actually have like, you know, a certain amount of time with each person, and then they'll rotate you to another person. So it was just like, just almost like in person, but just through video. It was like the coolest. So I think that that's like, but as part of the advertising play with that, I think, you know, companies or softwares like that will probably adapt in as people are chatting, like the branding or like a logo or like the information about the brand somewhere integrated into the platform or whatever. And I think the same thing with like trying the products. So even though like you can't try like some chips, you know, right there, but
By the way, chips by Rizzarr, so tasty.
Exactly. So maybe they'll like send you something in the mail where, you know, you can opt in to get the product that way. And that means like, of course, it's probably more money for the brand to spend. But I guess in the scheme of it though, they're probably going to be saving costs and being able to get a better deal with the conferences because it's not in person. So even though if they're spending money to ship things or whatever else, it probably will, you know, be the same, around the same cost structure, I'm thinking. So they'll probably think of creative ways of being able to send things to people or testing out things, you know what I mean? And they'll probably do more things with different content assets. So like probably doing more articles, more videos of people or the brands that they integrate into the platforms again, the short videos or highly produced videos, even selfie videos for content creators. And actually, and that's another thing I've really seen a lot of, which is why I think like, even with our emphasis on what we do and seeing more, being able to get more customers, is because of the fact that people are really integrating using content creators or like the brand's audiences in order to create advertising, because it's cheaper. Not only is it cheaper, but also they can't do things in person right now because of all the production and everything like that. So they're actually just incorporating using more people who are connected to that brand more as a way to advertise. So I think you're to see more clever ways of doing more sponsorships and more integrated marketing.
Oh, interesting. So you're saying like these companies are using these content creators to as a way to market themselves to like the people more now than just actually connecting to the people. Is that what's happening?
Yes. And even more so now because it's actually authentic in this way as well, because everyone is at home. So you have a content creator, maybe it's like a sweatpants brand or something, and then they, you know, do a video about how they love the sweatpants because it's nice to be at home. And the brand can easily just showcase that on their social media, you know, or whatever, their website. And it's even more authentic because this is an actual customer or potential customer who actually is saying if they like the product or not. You know what I mean?
I see. So it's not just influencers now.
Right. No.
Because
and even more so just regular everyday content creators. That is, to me, and just seeing how the trends are going, that is going to be the next big thing, is everyday types of people.
Okay, because yeah, it's more relatable because now it's not just like someone with, while there is value in someone with 100,000 followers trying on some pair of pants and then writing up a review and posting it on their social media platform. But now you're saying, hey, look, someone with even 100 followers, but you're a good writer, like just try these out. I mean, you already bought the pants, just we'll incentivize you to write something.
Yeah.
Per view or something.
And it's even better in that sense too, because even sometimes even studies have shown that just because you have a large audience doesn't mean your whole audience is actually engaged with you. Many times it's these micro and nano influencers who have, it's more bang for your buck to be working with them because their audiences are very niche, they're very engaging with them. So it makes it where it feels more real too, because it's coming from a person who's not like, you know, well known, but they're just like your everyday, I can relate to you even more.
So is that where you see like the is that's what's happening with the, I guess, the future of marketing right now is not just influencers, it's engagers more in a sense.
Yeah, and I think that's why, so companies like Glossier, for example, it's the makeup company, and like, they are doing so well right now because their hypothesis, which I really agree with as well, and I like our basis with starting Rizzarr, was because they believe that every person could be their own influencer, their own creator, their own marketing person that should be seen as just as valuable as a person who has 1 million followers. And so I think that's why they're able to have such an impact on their customers and to continue growing, because they're looking at each person who's interacting with their brand as valuable, and like they want to hear their opinion, they want them to use the products and talk about the products, and you don't need to be a supermodel to be able to do so because it's just as valuable to them.
Oh, for sure. I love that model, and I think it's way more valuable. I also want to go back to, you're a solopreneur, right? If I'm correct. And I know you work with a lot of contractors. I know for me, luckily I do have a co-founder with me, and we bounce off ideas and we work through things out. And we're completely remote. We've been remote for the last year. He's down in Florida. I'm in New York. And it's all about communication. I think people working and functioning in the future is this somewhat contractor and even more rural areas, as long as you have good internet. That's the number one key, is internet. I don't need to be in the big city anymore. Right? Like, and I see things going into that model of, I might not need to be, maybe the next business idea is going to be some timeshare model in the city where people just work with people, and then you can pay, like, because in New York rents are extremely high, but if I don't need to be there except for meetings, maybe I pay a $300, $500 a month and I get it for 5 days a month or something. That would be incredibly helpful, and that's kind of like what I do now. But I just feel it's so painstaking to be in a big city right now, and even in the future, because I manage everything from my home. Similar to you, right? You don't have an office, right?
We do have a space. We did have a space, and we're going to be moving after we raise our round. But most of right now, I mean, everybody's working from home.
And how's that working out? Is it
good? I mean, I honestly, depending on conditions, I think it might be what we do for a little while, instead of moving into the office space, because I just want to make sure people stay safe, and if there's not a need to be in the office, then why be in an office space? So we'll see, but I think, and it goes, that's an interesting point that you made too about the timeshares, because even I think it was Mira. Okay, maybe I may be misspeaking, but I read an article about how hotels are actually adopting, or they were adopting, like if people wanted to, once they flew in, they wanted to take a nap, they could like rent, or like, have a hotel room for a couple of hours and then go to their meeting and, pay not the whole price. That way the hotel can still continue making money without having to like just not have rooms, booked if people just want to take a nap, which I thought was really great, because I know sometimes when I just fly into some place for a day, it would be wonderful to take a nap and go do it. So
I think that is interesting. I think where you have a point is not just with hotels. I think it's actually become a business model in the city, in cities where you can just take naps in the city.
Or like you can stay for a little while at a time, that I think there probably are some office spaces that do that, but I think that's probably going to like surge after this even more so, especially with how the God forbid, but the economy is going, and things people are going to come up with more clever business models in order to make money for the pain points that are there if people can't afford to pay what they would have paid prior to this.
Well, yeah, I think definitely there's going to be interesting business ideas coming out of this. And I think we're all kind of innovating our original ideas a little bit to fit into this new space.
Yeah. I was going to say too, it's so interesting to me just to read about stories of companies like Disney or like Trader Joe's that started in these types of recessions or like, horrible times in the economy, and then ended up becoming like, these huge multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar companies. So I definitely think there's always a clever way of doing something, and it kind of just proves out a business model even more when these times hit. And also because the bigger guys getting knocked down more, so the little guys now can come up because it could be cheaper for talent-wise with and then also getting better deals for office space or other products and things because people just want to make money, or businesses do. So it's a really interesting time.
Oh yeah, we've definitely seen, even in our space, just the amount of experienced software developers, not just the United States, but all throughout Latin America, they're continually working sometimes without pay just to keep their brains working, but they're looking for new opportunities out there. And in the US, we're seeing a lot of it too. A lot of people are getting laid off, let go right now, but there's still a lot of companies that are hiring. What worries me a little is employment in the short term, like normal employment, because we just don't know the state of the economy. We don't know how things are going to work 3 months or longer. The fortunate thing we have in the States is our laws are very flexible for employment. That's why it's so beneficial just to work with people in the States as well. I know that you have contract. You don't have any employees yet, right? Or do you?
Most all of our people right now are contractors, but once we were raising our seed round, and then we'll have more full time.
For sure. And what would be, I guess, when you do your raise, right? What's going to be your, how you're going to handle your employees, and what's kind of like the contractor to employee status going to be, and how will you look towards the future for that?
Yeah, I think so. The way we treat like our content creators right now is as they're basically like 99s, and we work with them as in a contractor style. In terms of the team, because we do have team members who are in Los Angeles, and we have team members who are in Michigan or Detroit. So I think it's continuously like our communication style, but we're very communicative normally already. So I think it really won't change much compared to probably just checking in more with each other, doing more video calls, using more products that can allow us to do like whiteboarding on the computer, which I just found out about a really cool one that just raised around, interestingly enough, which it makes sense because of how the things are right now. So I think just really focusing on what can we do in terms of our communication style, not only as a team internally, but also with our content creators and our audiences. And as we develop more of the product and like the platform, how can we showcase opportunities to them to be able to help them to do what they love and to get paid to do it, and working with brands. And I think just the transparency, just really being authentic with what is going on in people's lives, because with everything that's going on now too, I think it can affect your mental health so much in different ways. Like one day you might be okay, the next day you might find out that one of your friends or something, someone passed away, and that's like a moment to be like, I need a break, like I need to just take a step back. So I think I'm definitely going to make sure that that's a really huge point of our culture, that if you need to take a break, you need a moment to just clear your head, or just like a mental health day, please take one. I mean, I will probably take some too at times.
Oh, for sure.
Running a company is no joke. So I think that's really important that we emphasize that more, and that we are transparent with each other about that.
Oh, for sure. Even as startups, we go through these sprints, and we go very hard for a shorter period of time, and then we don't even take a break. We don't appreciate what we just went through. Maybe we'll go have a little small party with the team or something, but we'll go back to, say, a normal day, an 8-hour day or something. But we don't say, hey people, like, let's take some time and just appreciate what we went through. Let's maybe take a half day because maybe still got to push, or maybe, like you said, take some time off, like just a day, relax. And I think that is definitely something that isn't appreciated enough right now.
Yes.
Like, one thing that I've drastically changed about my situation, and I'm definitely implementing it more and more, is the appreciation of my mind through meditation or whatever it has to be. It's just taking a break, appreciating what I have, and just thinking about that, and not focusing on getting my next client, making another interview. Like, sure, can I do that every day? There's times for that.
Right. Oh my gosh, I could go on like a tangent about this, but I'm going to try to but yeah, I mean, I think that so much, and I think with anything, the most that I've heard from people are like even conversations just online, or just attending webinars or having conversations with other entrepreneurs or friends of mine. It's just this like slowdown to really think, like, do I like the way that I'm living? Do I like the way that I'm approaching things in my life? Do I like the way that I'm leading, people, the team, et cetera, et cetera? And I think it's just like a really good way to continue that like reflection period and that meditative period of just thinking like, is this the way that we really want to keep moving forward? And if it's not, then you can change. But if we're so gung-ho on doing all these sprints, or just being so focused on like getting the task done, blah, 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 it's like, you look up and it's like, months later and you're burnt out, you're not happy with your life, you're irritated, probably need a vacation or take a break. And it's like, we could have done that the whole time of just taking, checking in with ourselves to say, like, do I need a break today? Do I really not feel like talking to anybody today? Or just checking in with people and saying, do you like what you're doing? Is there more that I want to do? Is there a better approach to what I'm doing? So I 100% agree with you.
I think that's so important, that last part that you mentioned, like, are you okay? It's such a common sense question that it's so hard to answer, though, at the same time.
Yes.
Because there's the answer you give to your boss, and then there's the answer you give to I guess there's a few different answers. There's the answer you give to your boss, there's the answer you give to your coworker, and then there's the answer you give to third party.
Right. And I think,
right.
Our generation is, if I feel that anything is going to start, I mean, it was already starting to come like a couple of years ago, when there was this whole news story about this girl who needed to take a mental health day, and people really started talking about mental health in the workplace. And we're much more, I feel like, transparent as a generation, and even the next generation, about our mental health. But I think as companies are looking to gain us as employees, and as we become managers, it's going to just become a real thing of conversation, where it's just like, okay, if you need a mental health day, go take it. No judgment, no, just like these taboo, whatever, thoughts. I think it's going to cause people to really be more authentic with themselves and with the people that they're interacting with. And I think as it's more becoming more adaptive in the cultures of companies, it's going to become a necessity, where unless the company really has that, people aren't going to want to work for that company. Because it's, again, everything is so shifting. It's like people are like kind of like waking up and like becoming more woke to like, I don't want to be part of a company that doesn't care about my mental health or care about me. Like, I don't want that. And that means I have to like take a moment to not have a paycheck or something else, and I have to figure out another way. Then I think, because of all the things our generation has been through, we will more than willing to also do that and like have to do other things in order to. But eventually, though, I think it's just that's more of importance to us than anything else. And I think companies are going to start realizing that.
Well, it's mental health, and it's like, how are you conducting business day to day to manage that? I've heard people that are on like 7-hour meetings daily. That's not how remote work is done
Oh, gotcha.
In my opinion, I don't need you. If you were my boss, right? And you're like, okay, Calvin, we're getting to work. And I'm like typing away at my computer and you're up there, and you might be typing away at your computer. I'm like, I'm working.
Right.
No, trust me, I'm working. And then like, it feels like people are trying to mimic the in-person experience offline, where they create these meetings, create these video chats for just to ensure they have their people working for 8 hours a day.
It is so just.
And it's not uncommon right now. I've heard it numerous times from people that are like, I can't work out from 9 to 5. I'm still working. I think this 9 to 5 model of working, if you're working from home, should be disrupted. I know for myself, I'm fortunate that I set my own schedule. I'm sure you do too. I actually don't like to work out after 5, and I don't like to work out before 9.
Right.
But I don't mind working. I don't mind working 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. I don't mind working whatever the hours are. I don't mind the hours.
Yeah.
As long as I can be like, you know what? I'm just going to take a 1 hour workout session and then shower. So 2 hours. I need 2 hours in the middle of the day, but I'm still going to work that. If I don't want to have to sacrifice, like there's no reason to sacrifice that time as long as the work gets done and I still have the camaraderie and connection with my team. Understand why? Because you hire people and this is your 9 to 5 job and that's your paycheck. You want your paycheck, you have to abide by my rules.
But at the same time, I get what you're saying too, because, and I've heard of this more and more. It's like in Silicon Valley, for example, they have many companies have varying schedules. So if someone is not like the 9 to 5 person, they're more productive at like noon, then they'll change their hours to make it so that they come in later on in the day and they want to stay later. Fine. Or like, and what does it matter too if you're getting your work done? I mean, yes, maybe everybody should be in at a certain time for a team meeting, not a team meeting that is 7 hours, 8 hours long, but just like a regular half hour, 45-minute, hour, whatever, just like that time. And then people should be off to be able to get their work done. And you should, I mean, to me, you hire your employees, your team members that it's almost, you trust them enough to know that they're doing what they are supposed to be doing. If you don't trust them in that way, then why are you hiring them?
I think what people are realizing is there's not enough work in a day for some companies to justify. They're like, oh, I don't have enough work for you for 40 hours a week or 8 hours in a day. So I have to conduct meetings with you, or I have to do something to take up your time. I get it. I'm working for you, but there's like how we conduct it when I work with teams, because I often help companies understand remote and what it means to go remote. And I say, look, like there are going to be times where you're going to have a lot of work. There's going to be times where you're not going to have a lot of work. If you have this open communication with your team and they have this understanding, when you have an extra 2 hours of work, they're not going to be like, oh, you have to pay me more or else I'm not going to work. They're going to be very understanding of that. So it's not like, oh, hey, I worked 32 hours this week, I'm going to work 48 hours next week. But you just have to have, like you said, this transparency earlier. If you have this transparency and open communication and dialogue, people are going to understand, then they're going to work hard when the time comes. And if there's not work, I think there's going to be this new model of not a 7-hour meeting just to have meetings.
Yeah, that's just insane.
And like, you don't have to do it every day.
Oh my gosh.
That's what Slack's for. Just chat.
That's just so intense. I mean, and then I feel like it's just going to make people have more anxiety too to be working, so it's like you're stressed out the whole time you're in the meeting. I mean, I would be. That's insane.
And it goes back to the mental health.
Yes.
All this anxiety builds up. You keep worrying about if you're doing a good job.
Right.
Where you were doing a great job already, but you just felt like you had to do more. So I think these mental days, this understanding that there's no these 8-hour work days, need to be innovated upon, and transparency and communication and sprints do occur, and they're okay, and lags are okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
I totally agree with you, because I was just about to, like, I just felt that, like, energy of it being where that would be the case, where you'd be like this all day, like I
could. Yeah, no, I totally. So yeah, what else? I mean, before we end this today, I want to really appreciate the insight you brought to the chat.
yeah,
You're a solopreneur doing some really amazing things.
thank you. I still
I'm
think
really
even though solo entrepreneur in that sense, but my team, like our CTO and our CEO and like everyone, they're all such great individuals. So I definitely could not do this without their help and their caringness. For it's very family like oriented team. So I'm so appreciative to them.
Yeah, I mean it's important to have that. Like you fill in the needs as you see fit, and you find the right people.
Yes.
Well, it was awesome chatting with you, Ashley. Any last, like, is there top 5 books you recommend for people that are trying to get into either future work, advertising, or anything? Any top 5 books that you're reading right now, or anything interesting?
Yeah. A couple. Well, I haven't read this book actually yet, but I've heard it though. It's called The Future of Work, and I've heard it's a really good book. And so I'm actually personally looking forward to that, because it talks a lot about apparently like the things that we're going through right now, and it was just like written a couple of years ago. So it's interesting that it's all kind of manifesting now.
Cool.
Yeah, I would say another one is You Are the Brand. I read that a little while ago. It's such a great book, just thinking about your positioning, your values, who you are, and really having that be like just being comfortable in that, and then letting your like light shine in the world, and being who you are to help other people and engage with other people. I also think another one. There's a one called The Experts Revealed. It's like 100 tribes, or people basically becoming like part of your tribe. That's also another good one. And I think just really when we're thinking about just like the changing of things, The Art of Nonconformity is one of my favorite books. I read that right before I actually decided to become an entrepreneur, but it was just really emotionally like great, just to understand that, you know, we each can carve our own paths, and as we're carving our own path, understanding who you're developing and who you're becoming at the same time, and then going back into like your brand or advertising. I'm trying to think of anyone related to marketing that don't come up to the top of my head, but I think those are definitely good ones to start with. And I guess the last thing I would say, just like it was ending, is I hope that people really take this time, or like even just as this next phase going into, you know, after quarantine, or as we're still in quarantine, is to really just think about like who it is that you're becoming in the process of your life. I think now we've really had a moment. I mean, it's amazing to me that the whole world, it was literally in quarantine. You know, I mean, that is like, we each at different parts of the world have our own issues and things like that, but it's just like the majority of the world was in quarantine. I think people had a lot of time to reflect and to really think about how they're living. And I think it shouldn't just be for this period of time that we're in quarantine. Like, this needs to be a continuous thing that we're checking in with ourselves about, and how we're living, because we're only here for such a short period of time. And I think that, to me, that reality has hit me more and more these days, about how, yeah, you could be here for, you know, 80 years, 100 years, etc., or 50 years, 20 years, whatever. But the thing is, it's just this period of time. So, like, what are you going to do while you're here? We can't just continue to be robots and just continue to just go about day to day and hoping that we'll eventually someday do blah, blah, or be blah, blah. No, do it now. Like, stop procrastinating. Because at the end of the day, I feel like we each have these unique gifts and talents, and we need to start living them. I know, like, I was procrastinating on doing a podcast and like a TV show thing. I've been meaning to do it, and now I'm like definitely gung-ho to get the thing going and start it, especially after we raised the round, and even now in the process of putting the stuff together for it. But I think it's just like a wake-up call that we all have unique gifts that we're supposed to bring here. So get going on it, because we all really need each other. I mean, the world needs whatever it is that you have to offer. So stop feeling like you're not enough, feeling the doubt, feeling the fear, all that crap needs to go and get to it.
Love it. We just need to fall into what we love.
Yes.
And go through with it. Whatever it is you're doing, wherever you are in your life, love it. If you don't love it, stop it. Take some time, figure out what it is that you feel like you can love, and just do it. Because you don't know, like you said, we have maybe 100 years of person, sometimes a little longer. But this is our opportunity to shine. We have probably like a 60-year window to shine. And what are we going to do with those 60 years? Might as well do something you love. And don't procrastinate on it.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Ashley, giving us some helpful insight.
For having
me. We really appreciate it. If you want to give anything, if you want to share your information with the listeners, I will pass it off to them. Otherwise, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you so much too. Great job. Great.